Hi everyone, Fiona here for today's ARTYnoon session. Welcome. Thank you to Glen Iris City Council for bringing this to you. My name is Fiona Wood. I'm a local artist and art teacher, and I have to admit, a wool addict. Absolutely love wool. I'm embarrassed to show anyone my wool collection. It's literally crates and crates of wool that we have to store on our roof. I've got so much. So today's session is something that's very true to my heart. I just love doing things with wool, and especially the sort of textural warmth that it brings to your home. Having some textiles around your home really brings it a lot of warmth. I'm going to do a couple of activities with you today. Obviously, these are going to be for children, so that just if you haven't watched an ARTYnoon before, ARTYnoons are really based on all age groups, probably primarily primary school, but any ages can join in. And with a little help from mum and dad, the younger kids could certainly do some of the activities I'm going to do today. Now, I couldn't help myself when I thought, oh, we're doing fun with wool. I didn't get out my crates and crates of wool, but I have put a couple of weavings around me today just to make it look really lovely and colourful for this video. And obviously we're not going to be doing these, but we are going to be doing some more simpler activities that the kids can do. So I'm going to show you some finger knitting. Have to say, finger knitting, there's a little bit of finger knitting I was done here. Finger knitting have to be probably one of the biggest hits that I ever do in art classes. I used to run art club at the local primary school, and I can tell you any lunchtime that I came in with bags of wool, the kids would get excited, and I've taught, I couldn't say how many kids how to finger knit. It's just a fun activity. My kids themselves went through a massive finger knitting phase, to the point our garden used to have finger knitting wound all around the trees outside. We used to put it everywhere, all around the house. They used to have competitions, who could make the longest piece of finger knitting. So it's obviously a really, really good activity to have. I have to say it's also been a great activity for kids on an aeroplane or on a plane, or on a car journey. If all you need is a ball of wool and your fingers. So sorry, I haven't actually gone through the materials we need for today, which is just a ball of wool. You probably need some scissors to cut it, and you can add on a few things when I'm talking that you might need, but really just to follow along today, you could just those. In regards to the wool, any wool is okay. I use a mixture of wool in the things that I do. So often I use real wool, I use a mix of acrylic and wool, and I often just use acrylic wool. These, I think I've got a value ball here, which is 93% acrylic. This is just a spotlight ball of wool, really good value. So you can get wool from even the discount shops these days, okay? You really only need to spend probably $2 or $3 on a ball of wool. Okay, so we are going to do today, we're going to start with the finger knitting, then we're going to do some pom-poms. We're going to make those pom-poms into, I can show you how to make them into garlands or little people, little animals. We're going to do just some simple weaving. And I'm also going to show you just how to do a simple wool hanging. So we've got lots of things that we're going to do. So in regards to the finger knitting, so I have taught children definitely as young as 4 and 5 how to finger knit. Just a little hint, I've got one here that I've started that's on a pencil, and that's a great way if you don't finish it and want to knot it off, you can store it on a pencil and then you pull it off the pencil, put it on your finger and keep going, okay? So they don't have to do it all in one go. So to start a finger knitting though, we're just going to cut this one off and start a new one. Ball of wool, fingers, you need to just tie a knot, just tie a simple knot around a finger, okay? So parents, I usually do that bit for the kids, so I can't really struggle a little bit with tying the knot around their finger, but that's, I set them up like that, and then I just show them how to do the first few steps. So I usually show them, so you put the cross at the front, you have to excuse my nails, and you pull this one over front. So we do across the front, back one, goes over front one, across the front, back one goes over the front one. Over the front, back one goes over the front one. Just a little bit tight. Over the front, back one goes over the front one. Over the front, back one goes over the front one. And you just keep going like this. Over the front, back one goes over the front one. So I usually sort of show them, I hold it over the front, help them pull that back one over the front one, roll it back. After a while, they'll get the hang of it. And then you just keep going for as long as you want your finger knitting. Now these multicoloured balls of wool are great fun. The kids really seem to like them. And it means that your finger knitting turns out lots of different colours. That said, you can easily change colours at any point of time by cutting off your wool, just tying the next colour to it, and then you just keep going. So you can change colours as many times as you want. And you just keep going and going until it's as long as you want. So you can see over the front, back, front, over the front, back one, goes over the front one. Now obviously with finger knitting, you can do 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 fingers. You can easily just keep doing it with more. I find that it's best to master the 1 finger finger knitting first, and then if your child really gets into that and understands it well, then you can start doing multiple fingers. The same setup, but just doing each finger. So you can see that's growing pretty fast. That's the other thing I think that children like about finger knitting is that it grows pretty fast. And you can make it thicker by using thicker wool or using a couple of strands of wool together. Or you can even finger knit your finger knitting. So you do this, then you've got it this thickness, and then you finger knit that and make it thicker again. But I have to say, you know, there was one year that we put finger knitting, we did in Christmas colours, and we did it all over our Christmas tree. And it looked really fun. It was a little bit of a nice alternative to tinsel. And I don't know, I just really like the homemade element to it. There's nothing like having homemade things around your house. It makes it feel really homey. If your kids are doing lots of artwork at the moment, put it up around the house. Put some homey handmade things up around it, and it gives your home some style and personality. So just one small, on my finger, across the front, the back piece goes over the front piece. Okay. I'm hoping that you've all got the gist of that, and I'm hoping that some of you might be following along now and actually doing a little bit of finger knitting. So you can keep going with that. If you want to save it, you can do what I did before, is that you just get a pencil, put that loop that was around your finger onto your pencil and pull it tight, and then you can go back to it. Now the very last point, if I did want to knot it off, is I cut my wool. So you've got your loop and you just make a knot. So your mum and dad, you might need to come and help with this one. I just make a little knot in that loop and pull it tight. And that's going to finish it off so that it can't. So you can make even a little bracelet out of that, necklaces, so many different things. So number 1, finger knitting. My number 1 go-to with wool. My number 2 go-to with wool, again, I think all you need is wool and your hands, and that is pom poms. Now I know there's lots of different pom pom makers out there. All the shops seem to sell them. I just find the plastic, I'm not really into using a lot of plastic, and I just feel that it's so easy. Again, you're on holiday and all you've got is the ball of wool. It's easy, just as easy to do it with your hands without actually using a complex pom pom maker. So I'm going to show you my easy peasy way of making pom poms. And again, my kids went through a massive phase of making pom poms. There was times where we had garlands all around the house and we had animals that everywhere. I've done a quick search. My kids are teenagers now, so I've done a quick search to try and find what we still have. And obviously we've renovated and stuff, not around our house anymore. But this one I did find that we made in a beautiful mother-daughter pom pom night we once did. And we made these beautiful wall hangings like this. But with pom poms, You can churn out quite a lot once you get into the gist of it, and there's so many things that you can do with the pom-poms. So they look beautiful as they're hanging like this, or you hang them like this. And you can also really make them into cute little animals. I'll show you how to do that as well, because Pom Pom Animals are great fun, a craft activity again. And I have to say, with it coming up to winter at the moment, these sort of crafts with wool and things that you can do indoors are really lots of great fun. So these June, July school holidays, and you've got some raining, pouring days, and it's really not much to do outside, get some wool out and let the kids have a go at making some things with wool. So Fiona's easy peasy how to make pom-poms with just your hands is you get your wool and you're going to wrap it around your 4 fingers, so not including your thumb, and you start wrapping with your fingers spread. Now the idea with this is just to keep wrapping, keep your fingers spread, to keep telling the kids don't do it too tight or it's hard to pull off your hand. So try and wrap as loosely as you can. Now I tell the kids to wrap 100 times. I'm always, whenever I'm doing a demonstration like this, I forget what number I'm up to. I've actually got no idea what number I'm up to right now. But I'm just going to keep wrapping until it's about the thickness that I think. If you get a few little strandy bits that accidentally come off, doesn't matter. It's just about gathering up the wool around your hand. Now, if the kids start doing it too tight, you might need to pull it off and start again. It will slowly get tighter, but make sure that they do it with their fingers spread and not too far down the hand as well, sort of at the finger stage. So I'm just going to keep wrapping until it's about 100 times. And the more you wrap, the thicker your pom-pom is. So it doesn't have to be, it could be 50 and you might want a really shaggy pom-pom. Okay, I'm thinking that's about 100. Okay. So you can see it has got tighter on my hand. It will naturally get tighter. So just start as loose as you can and really concentrate when they're going around, not to pull it too tight, to keep it loose. So once we've done that, we pull it off our hands. And then we've just got the gathering of wool with hole in it, yeah? So we're going to cut our wool off the ball and we're going to cut a spare piece of wool to tie around the middle. So with this bit, we're going to gather it up so we've got a middle bit and we're just going to tie that spare piece of wool around the middle of it. Obviously, I usually put this down on the table. I'm just trying to work out how to do it so you can see it. Might just have to put it down. So I am just tying around the middle. I would suggest that for mum and dad, if your children are really young, you do this bit for them, because if the knot in the middle isn't tight enough, your pom-pom will fall apart. So I do one knot one side and then I twist the wool to the other side and then I do another knot. And I suggest you just knot it several times just to make sure. So I've done a nice tight knot in the middle, okay? So our next step is to cut all the loops. So we just get our scissors in and we cut the loops. Now, if you want to make a multicoloured pom-pom, this one's automatically been multicoloured because I was using multicoloured wool. But you can do a multicoloured pom-pom by wrapping half the time with, say, green and then the other half with yellow, and you'll get a yellow and green. Okay, so you can stop halfway and just keep wrapping with another colour. Don't need to do any knots or anything. Just stop, cut it off, wrap. So I've cut all my loops. Just get your scissors in, make sure there's no loopy bits. And I'm going to shaggy them up a little bit. And there I have a beautiful shaggy pom-pom. Now, you might like it like that. Some people like really shaggy pom-poms. But if you want your pom-pom like these ones here, and you can see the difference, these are really quite dense. And the reason these ones are dense is that they've had a little bit of a hairy. Okay? So I like to cut my pom-poms. So to give it a bit of a hairy, we just start cutting some of the bits around. Now, the wool is going to go everywhere. I suggest you have a little bowl in front of you that the wool falls into. Or be prepared to do a little bit of a sweep in whatever room you're in afterwards. It's a bit like being at the hairdressers, the hair goes everywhere. So keep rolling your pom-pom around. And keep cutting off the shaggy bits. Now, you can get really carried away with this bit. We're just trying to get him as even. As you can see that he's not nearly as shaggy as he was before. But I still think you can even try and make him a little bit denser. Obviously, your pom-pom gets smaller as you cut him. Now, places to get wool, as I mentioned before, Spotlight and Lincraft often have wool sales, especially around when winter starts to come. Keep an eye on them. There's always sales, and the discount stores actually sell balls of wool for about $2 or $3 as well, and I often grab them from there as well. As I said, I do hoard wool. It's amazing how much wool I own. I do love it. There's just some sort of warmth about it. If you really get into the pom-pom making, you can even make so many pom-poms, you can sew them all together and make a rug out of them. So many different things you can do with them. You can make a cushion out of them. Okay. So my little guy now, I like to roll him around in my hands to make him really nice. He's not as shaggy as he was, but he's probably about the right thing. So with that now, I could make several of those in different colours. I love to colour scheme things. So this pink feather's not supposed to be there. I've just lost the end of that particular hanging. But this one's in beautiful blues and whites. But you could do it in bright. You could just do lots of these ones all along. That look great in a kid's colourful kids room. Now, if you want to make your pom-pom into an animal, you can just use the one pom-pom. And you can add some little eyes. Missing an eye? No. You can add some eyes and some ears. The pom-poms are great for noses. And so if you just want to make one, you can do that. But sometimes you want to use two pom-poms. And I'm sorry about my examples. I've just gone through my art room and tried to find what I could find in the art room. Most of the pom-poms I go home with kids, or often I give them all like samples away for free. So here's a double one. Now, if you want to do a double one, so say I've done this body and I've got this head and I want to attach them together, there's a little trick that I like to use. And I've just got, I've actually made pom-pom baking kits, and I've just got one of my bags from that, is that I use a piece of wire. So this is just florist wire. You can use slightly thicker if you want. And to attach two pieces together, I push the wire through the top one, and then I just bend it in a little hook. So that's a little hook. And then I pull it down, and what we'll do, that will catch in the middle. So that's now caught. I then push it through my bottom one. And then I scrunch these up as much as I can, and I just push too hard then. Sorry, just do that again. So I go through the bottom one. Scrunch them up, and then bend that bottom one into a hook as well. And then push it in. So now these two are stuck together. You can glue them, but here's a glue one here, but they do kind of wobble around a lot when you try and glue them. So that the wire makes it much more stable. So that's my little hint on how to get two pieces together. Now, there's so many animals you can make out of pom-poms, I have to say. Loads and loads and loads. So let your imagination go wild. Now, I don't always say with art, things don't have to be their natural colours, okay? So you don't have to do a bunny white. You don't have to do dog brown. I'm a big lover of colour, as you can see. And so I often think like a cool little dog or cat in multicolours or bright colours is just as fun as one in their standard colours, okay? So just do any colours that you want. Now, if you don't own any Google Eyes or ears and that, you can just use paper. So I've just cut up some little paper ears, and I might just want to stick some little paper ears on. You can also draw some eyes on paper. And I did do some, but I've lost it on in amongst all the wool on my table. But you can draw some eyes on some paper or use these. I've just got some paper stick-on eyes, or use some paper stick-on eyes to put on as well, okay? So lots of different options on how to get your eyes on if you don't have any Google Eyes. You can just draw them and cut them out of paper and stick them on. Or you can use Google Eyes pipe cleaners, if you've got any, are great for tails. So you could twirl them around your finger. This would be a great little pig's tail. It was in pink. They're also good for arms. So we could glue some little pipe cleaners on for arms. The tail could be, could use pipe cleaner as a scarf, and actually your finger knitting would look really good. And we have done that before as well, as a scarf for your little pom pom animal. Finger knitting makes great scarves. Okay. So use different things to add and make them into animals. Certainly I often use felt. So just little pieces of felt. And then I would cut them into triangles or round bits for ears. I'd cut it into, sometimes you could use it for feet. Okay. Or you could use it for a hat. So you can use the felt for different things as well. So making pom pom animals, I actually do have a YouTube video on how to make pom pom animals, and what I might do is add the link to the comments section if anyone wants to have a look at that. Okay, so we have covered pom poms and then how to make them into cute wool animals. If you wanted to make your pom pom into a garland like this, you will need just a wool needle or a needle, and you're just going to get your thread, thread it up, and then you just poke it through each pom pom, okay? And then you'd either have a knot on each end where you just hang it up like that, or what we've done with this one, we've got the needle and thread it through, and then we have got a stick which we've decorated. So it's another great thing to do with wool, is wool wrapped sticks. Okay, very, very easy to do. It's another thing that I absolutely love doing is wool wrapped sticks. So you can use a natural, this is just a natural stick that I found, as if you watch my in the garden one, I actually go and collect sticks from nat parks under gum trees, lots and lots of sticks to collect. Or you could use a wooden dowel rod. And with your wrap sticks, we start wrapping and you wrap around your end. So you don't even need to do a knot. I've wrapped around my end so it's hidden, and then that's not going to come undone. So just make sure you wrap around the end bit quite a bit, and then you just keep wrapping. If you want to change colours, you cut it off. You grab your next colour. Put it on your stick, start wrapping. As long as you wrap around your ends each time, you don't need to knot it, okay? And then I just keep going. The only time I would knot it is at the very end, but I'll be completely honest with you, I don't even usually knot it at the very end. I add a little dab of hot glue, okay? So you can add just a little bit of hot glue to the end, and that will stop it unraveling. If you don't have a hot glue gun, and a lot of you won't, then a little bit of sticky tape, a little bit of normal glue, or do it not, okay? But we just keep wrapping. Wrap sticks, another, all you need. Send the kids out to the park or to the garden, collect some sticks, all the wool. Great activities with very, very little that you need. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to go on to show you is how to do a tassel. So tassels look great at the bottom of the garlands, or if you're going to do a wall hanging. They also make great octopuses. So we often make tassels, and instead of a pom pom animal, we've left this bit loose and we put little eyes on it, and it can be a jellyfish or an octopus tassel. So a tassel, I often do use a piece of cardboard for my tassel. You can do it exactly the same with the pom pom with your fingers, and then you just tie around the top. But I find for some reason the tassel's a little bit easier. So here's one that's been wrapped around a piece of cardboard. And if your child is very much struggling with my easy peasy way of making pom poms with their fingers, this is just a piece of cardboard So I've cut, and they can wrap around the cardboard instead. And the same thing, then bend your cardboard, pull it off, and it's the same thing. Okay, so you don't need a pom-pom maker, just a cheap piece of cardboard. So with the tassel, it's the same thing as a pom-pom. Instead of tying it right at the middle, we are going to tie it at the top. So you can't see right here, but I've got this massive pile of wool right in front of me. So I'm just going to tie a bit around the top. And then I just cut the bottom bits. So not all the loops, just the bottom loops for my tassel. You might need to, if you've got a shaggy bit, sometimes you need to give it, it's like giving the pom-pom a little bit hairy, but just a hairy across, right across the bottom to make it nice and straight. And there I have a tassel. Pretty simple. Now, another thing to make fun to make with wool is these gorgeous little feathers. So again, these are just made with wool. And depending on what type of wool you get, is depending on to how fluffy they become. Now, it's a bit complex to show you online right now how to do those. But again, I have a YouTube video on how to make them, which I'm going to provide the link. And you can make these quite simply. You do need an additional thing you'll need to make the feathers is a comb or a pet brush. Brushing out these bits to make it really fluffy really helps. But not all of you are going to own a pet brush. So just a comb will work. We can buy, I think, a pet brush for about $3 at Kmart. So these feathers look gorgeous, and these can be added to your pom-pom garland, or they could be added to a weaving, or they're just gorgeous to make. So I'll provide a link for them. The other thing I make quite often with wool is these hanging stars. This one is a Christmas one, so I could only find a Christmas one as an example in the studio. But it just shows you with wool, you can do things Christmas themed or whatever colours that you want. So this one does have a little bauble and some tinsel for it. A lot of your parents here will remember making these as kids. You can just get normal sticks and glue them together, or I have just used these craft sticks. I think they're often called they're like kind of like coffee stirrers. They're a little bit thinner than a popsicle stick. So I've just got two there that I've glued together. And with these, you just knot your string around the middle. So sorry, I don't think I even said at the start of the video I was doing this. With wool, as I said, I'm absolutely obsessed with wool. And I think I've tried nearly every single thing that you can do with wool. I just love it. Something about the colour and the textural experience. So these are always quite a big hit with the kids as well, though. Great winter activity. So we've just got our star. As I said, you can often just use natural sticks for this, okay? Just go out to the garden when you're going out to get your garden stick that you want to wrap with wool and put two together, and you can knot them together with a string, or you can just glue them together with a little bit of hot glue. And then with this, we wrap around one stick, then we go to the next. We wrap, we go to the next. We wrap, we go to the next. Now, the trick with making these is that we always go over and wrap around. Over, wrap around. Over, wrap around. Some children get a little bit confused in that they try and do it like weaving in under, over, under, over. Okay, it's not under, over, under, over. It's around each stick, wrap it round. Round the stick, wrap it round. They will see that it's working because you start to get this pattern happening here. Okay? If it starts to bulk up on one side, they're doing it wrong. They're going over, under, over, under. So it's one stick, wrap it round. One stick, wrap it round. Next. And you just keep going like that. Now they look good obviously if you change colours. So to change colours, you can just cut off your string, knot it onto a different colour. So I'm just changing colour. By knotting two colours together. And then we just keep going. Any little taily bits in that you can get, you can just cut them off later or push them through to the wrong side if they're facing on the wrong side. And you just push them through to the wrong side and cut them off at the end. Okay. So you can see the next new colour starting. So it is around the stick, cross, around the stick. See if I can do it this way. Cross, around the stick, cross, around the stick, cross, around the stick, cross, around the stick, cross, around the stick. Can you see my pattern starting to happen? This should bring back some childhood memories for some of your parents if you're doing this. Now, I think children really as young as 5 and 6 can do this. Once they get the hang of it, wrap around the stick, they'll start to just keep going. These also look really pretty outside, hanging from trees. I'm also a massive fan of yarn bombing. I love when I go to a park and there's trees wrapped in knitting. I also love knitting as well. Okay, so you're just kind of getting the gist with that one. Keep wrapping. I'd probably change colours again soon. Do the next one. Very last bit, again, we're going to knot it off. My little trick is I love to get the hot glue gun out and do a little dot of glue and just pat it on. That's just an easy, quick way. And then I'd usually get the scissors out and just cut off any little bit strands that I've got. Okay. All right, what else have we got? I would like to show you how to do one of these. So this one, again, you can see my daughter helped with a lot of these samples, or made these samples in classes in the past, and she has a massive love for balloon. So we've got lots of balloon themes happening. So this one is, I love doing these. This is when I've collected up some really lovely wools that have got a bit of texture and a bit of difference and fluffiness to them. So you probably, if you can just do this with normal wool, and it would look like the fringe of this particular weaving here, which would have been fantastic for last week's ARTYnoon, which was all about rainbows. And if you missed that one, it is still available. All ARTYnoons from the past are still available under the discussions tab. You can just scroll down. But we did rainbows last week, and here's another example of a colourful thing that's been done in rainbow. So with this one here, it is really just collecting up your wools and then tying them to a dowel rod. This one has been, but this one was just a natural stick that we wrapped. Okay? These fluffy wools can be got, again, from the discount shops, and I'm pretty sure I got this one from the discount shop. This was $3, it's still got a price on it, and Spotlight and Lincraft. Okay, so it's good to get, so if you want to do one of them, just grab some sort of fluffy wools. You're going to go grab, cut a length. You want it quite long because you're going to double it up. So you need to have it, this would be great for a Christmas one, I'm thinking. It looks a bit like tinsel. You want to have it double the length you want. So you want it like this. We're going to get our stick, and what we do is we loop it over. So there's our loop, there's our tails, and we pull the tails through the loop and pull it tight. Okay, so then we've got it attached to our stick. This is a bit of a macrame method as well. Now, adults, you can do this too. I actually don't think this is that childlike. This looks great hanging on a wall, okay? So it doesn't have to be just kids that do this. And if you're really struggling with doing the method that I just showed you can just tie them on, okay? But I'll show you another one. So I double it up. I loop, so I've got the loop at the top that I go over. And then where that loop is, I pull the tails through the loop. And then I pull it tight. So all we're doing is we keep doing that with whatever wool that we've got. This one here, by the way, this white wool here is called, I think it's called Flurry, and they're about $2 ball of wool. And it comes in all different bright colours. It comes in some really bright rainbow colours. So it's really great wool to use. So we've got the loop over the top. We pull the tails through the loop and pull it tight. So with this beautiful wall hanging, here's another beautiful flurry in pinks. So I have it doubled over. There's my ends there. There's my loop there. It goes over your stick. And then where my loop is, the tails go through, get through, pulled through, so then I can pull it tight. So we just keep going with this until it's got enough thickness. I think like you want it fairly thick. And then we just do tie a string across the top so we can hang it up on a hook in the room. Now these look lovely with a few little additions. With this one, we've added some little gold feathers. This is just some white feathers I bought from the craft shop, and I added a little bit of glue and glitter. I didn't buy them like that, but I'm sure you probably can. You could add some pom-poms or tassels in amongst that. Done that before as well, hanging off it. You can often, this one, I don't know if you can see, it's actually got a pom-pom right at the top where it's hanging. Yeah. It's got a pom-pom hanging from the top. So many things you can do. Really, I've just shown you what to do with wool and sticks. There hasn't been much else that you've needed besides a pair of scissors. I have to say, just in a little thing in regards to scissors, just normal paper scissors don't sometimes cut it when cutting wool, especially when you're trying to cut those loops on the pom-poms. So I suggest that you try and have one pair of fairly good sewing scissors that you can use to cut wool. You can use the craft ones, it's just harder to cut. I actually have some sewing scissors that I just keep aside, so when I'm cutting wool and material, it's just a little bit easier. Okay. The one last thing I wanted to show you was weaving. So another great activity for kids. You don't have to have an expensive wooden loom. I have just used a piece of cardboard. It's literally a piece of cardboard, and I have cut little slits in it. So I make these looms up myself. It's a piece of cardboard. And what I've done is I've just cut little cuts down the side. You can do any, 4 or 5. And you can measure them out with a ruler if you want. I don't even bother to do that. I just cut them. Just make sure I've got the same amount on either end and they're pretty even. They don't have to be exact. We then get our wool and we're just going to push it through our first cut, push it through the bottom one, and we just go back and forth. Now, weaving, just like macrame, has had a re-emergence. So if you wanted to do something a little bit more complex like the ones behind me, again, I have done that. I hand make everything on a handmade loom that I just made out of pieces of wood that I nailed together, that you can buy looms. Same thing really, I've just strung it up with string, and then I've obviously got more strings in this, and then I've weaved on that. So just going to cut my string. So I've just, on the back, I haven't even bothered knotting it. I've just stuck them through, they will stay. Sometimes what I do is I put a little piece of sticky tape on both of those on the back, just to make sure they stay in place. Okay. So there's the front of my weaving thing. And then It's just a matter of starting to weave. So weaving is in, out, over, under, over, under. Over, under, over, under. So tie your string on the first piece. Tied my string on first piece. I like to get just a bit of wool. So pull a bit of wool off your wool. I wind it around my hand so that it's kind of a little bundle. And then with the strings, pull one out and we go under it. And then we go over the next. Then we go under. And we go around the end. Now the trick with going around the end is that we don't want to pull it really tight so it pulls in like that, because it's going to make our weaving go in. So it's really important to keep it loose. So even hold it. So I can see that I went under on that one. I can actually look. If you get lost, I go, oh, was I up to over or under? You look, oh, I was under on that one, which means I'm over this time. But I was over that one, so that means I go under that one. So under, over, under. And then I'm going to go over, making sure I don't pull it too tight, under the next one. And just push it up as you go. So I've done a little bit more on this one. And I have started to go in because it's a natural tendency to go in, especially on one like this, but just try really hard to pull it out as you go. So you just keep going. If you want to change colours, we do the same as what we did with the finger knitting and with our stars. Just tie a piece of string, put the end of the wool onto a different coloured piece of wool, keep going, okay? Or if you want, you can tie it off at the end and start again if you want to make sure it doesn't change colour halfway through a row. So these over, under, all the way to the bottom. You can leave it on the loom. I sometimes quite like to leave it on a loom. Or you can cut it off the loom by cutting it at the end. We then turn our loom to the back. We gather all these up and we cut these across the middle. And then we just knot them at the top. Each two, knot them together so that then these can't fall off. Now I've done that pretty quickly, but I only have a short video to show you an immense amount of my favourite wool things to do. So feel free to do a little Google search on that if you want to continue doing more weaving with your kids. But look, I said, really simple, just a piece of cardboard. So it will work for initial, have a go at it. The other thing that we often do is we use paper plates. This is a paper plate one. I've cut this one into a flower shape, but you don't need to do that. You could just leave it as a plate and just cut the slits in it. It doesn't need to be done into a star. A circle weaving is exactly the same method of making sure you go over, under, going around. But you never have to stop at the ends. The good thing about doing circle ones is that you don't have that problem of pulling it in as much because you're going around in a circle. So I do actually quite like to do them as circles. And anyone who does get into the weaving, I didn't show you last week with our rainbows one, but you can do rainbow weavings on a plate and they look amazing. So you can do the plate where you just do half of it and then you do the rainbow shape. It looks amazing. You can just Google, if you're interested in that, Google rainbow weavings. Okay, so it's just over, under, just keep going. And with these ones, I like to leave it on the plate. We often paint them, so we can paint the petals and leave it as a really pretty flower. So I've given you lots and lots of ideas. Before I finish, can't help myself but mention a couple of other wool things that I love to do. Obviously macrame is very big at the moment, and this goes with last week's lesson as well. These wool rainbows, very popular at the moment. It's called a macrame, but I kind of think of it more as a wool craft actually, because what you do is that you wrap, so these are pieces of rope, and I did have some in front of me. lost in amongst my pile of wool. There we go. So these are just pieces of rope that have been untangled at the end. You untangle into it, and then you just wrap wool around each piece. Now you can add wire. This one doesn't have wire, but you can add wire so that it bends and stays in the shape. So you just sticky tape your wire to your piece of rope, wrap it in wool, get all your different pieces together, and then you just either hot glue them, or I've sewn this one, or sew them together to make a beautiful woolen rainbow. I'm not going to show you that again. It's just not enough time to show you all these things in detail. But give it a go. I do have some kits available for the rainbows, or otherwise, honestly, you could just look up YouTube on how to do a rainbow. It's called a macrame rainbow, but they're with wool. Okay. My final thing I need to show you, which I also absolutely love doing, and for lovers of wool, is felting. So felting's probably a little bit more specialised, but I just want to touch on it. Obviously not for the really young kids out there. I, in my classes, don't let kids do felting until they're 8. So needle felting, we're talking dry needle felting. You can do wet felting, which would be fine for younger children. So obviously I don't have the things to show you wet felting here, but wet felting, but also needle felting. So needle felting, you do need a specialist needle and you need a foam pad. You can buy little kits at various craft shops to do needle felting. Especially, I would have to say, older primary school age kids really, really enjoy this. It's a really fun activity. This is just felt, this stuff which is called wool roving, and you need the needle. Now, obviously, it is only for older kids because the needle is quite sharp. It has a barb in it. You don't want to go through their fingers. So you can even get specialist little pads to put on their fingers. And needle felting, you just basically push a needle through and attach your wool roving to, you can see it's pushed through the back. So it gets attached to your felt by the needle going in and out, and because it's got a little barb on it, it pulls it through the felt and attaches it on. So I just wanted to touch on that because if you end up with a child, so here's some ones that have been done in my classes. If you end up with a child that's very much into sort of these beautiful textile crafts, I just wanted to say that needle felting is a really, it might just be a good birthday or Christmas present is to buy them a needle felting kit and let them have a bit of a go because it is really, really fun and addictive. So I think that's it for today. I hope I've shown you my love of wool. I also have just another little example here of a round weaving. So that's been done on an embroidery hoop. We did that in a workshop once. And that's another way of doing it, buying a cheap embroidery hoop and then weaving. And so it's another really example of this one. You can weave into weavings the wool roving. So wool roving can be woven in. Traditional weavings like this one have it woven into the lines. A lot of this is wool roving rather than just wool. This one here is another wall hanging that I found with some tassels on it. Lots of different wool scraps. You can look for wool in op shops as well. I found a great bag of this sort of fluffy wool at an op shop once. And remember, obviously, our Pom Pom Animals as well. Always, always a great kit for the kids. So I hope I've inspired you to go and buy some wool and just to get into wool. It is certainly the ultimate winter activity on a rainy, cold day is to get out that beautiful, colourful wool, spread it around and actually make some things with it. If you have any questions, please feel free to put in the comments. This is our very last ARTYnoons, so I hope you've enjoyed them. I've certainly enjoyed bringing them to you. The good news is that I will be bringing to you some more sessions for the adults, so please join us for those. Have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday afternoon, and thank you to everyone for joining us and for posting pictures. This one's probably going to be a little bit difficult, but if you could post anything that you make with wool or have made with wool previously, I just love to see any pictures of anything, of any arty thing. So feel free to post anything, give us any comments. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.